Welcome back to From the Shed End, episode 155 with myself, Theo, and the other Theo. How you doing?
I'm good, yeah. It's been a relatively busy week, and I'm not sure you saw, but Twitter was down for a bit, I think on Monday, I think it might have
Yeah.
been. And I just panicked and I did an update on my phone and finally updated it to X because for about a year and a half, for a year
Welcome
and a
to.
half, yeah,
Has it still
I
been
just
working on the so you can use it
it,
still as Twitter?
it was still working under Twitter, and that's why I kept it that way because I just refused to kind of
Yeah,
cave
yeah.
into Elon Musk's world of X. But now kind of I panicked on the day and I thought it was linked to me not having done the update for a good year and a bit. So I've officially got X now on my phone, unfortunately. Already missing the blue bird.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I'm good. How are you doing and how's the non-caffeine in your diet
No,
going?
no, 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 no. We are officially back.
Ah,
I caved in. I caved in. So but no, I'm good. I'm good. I think yeah, it's been a busy couple away from football. It's been a busy couple of days. So just as I was saying to you before, looking forward to like getting to that weekend, enjoying a bit of downtime. But yeah, caffeine is in full effect. Second mug of, although it's not to the usual standards. So I'm sort of slumming it today. It's not Kenko, but it's not far off Kenko. It's one of those kind of like slumming it ones. So but yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good as always. We appreciate everyone that's subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, joining in with commenting on our videos as well. So if you haven't already done so, hit the Linktree link in the description. Takes you to the social accounts as well, the podcast episodes. But let's go back to last week. Leicester. Leicester gave
mm.
us a bit of a game, to be fair. 1-0 Chelsea. Um Unlikely scorer, or likely, depends how you look at it. But what do you think overall sums up how we played in that game last week?
I mean, it didn't really seem like we were a team fighting for top four. It just felt we were very subpar, very lackluster, very just lethargic as well, and we just didn't really kind of get going from the off. It almost always felt like we'd gone back to those Potter and Sarri days where we were just passing, passing, passing. And they defended really, really well. Before kickoff, I kind of told myself, like, if we can't score against the defense of Cody and Woofas, then I think we're big question marks over our attack. But credit to them, they were actually very, very strong and a tight unit at the back. They really lacked, I think, in the attacking department. And I think the only chance maybe that gave us a bit of a scare is when Bozo, the clown, Robert Sanchez, came out as goal and did some kind of Superman pose to allow, I think, Vardy to get ahead on it. And that hit the crossbar. But other than that, I think we were quite. They never really kind of properly had a crack on goal. But yeah, it wasn't a great performance. So like I came out of Stamford Bridge thinking, all right, we got 3 points, and that's really, really important now going into this period where we've got really tough games for the remaining of our fixtures, and we've got
Yeah.
Arsenal back to back now in the league. So there was no. I would have been really, really gutted how we not got the 3 points, but the way we got the 3 points just really wasn't pretty at all. And like you said, it was a really unlikely, or shall we say, likely goal scorer now in Marc Cucurella, who got the goal. Credit to him, he's been absolutely fantastic this season. I think a toss between him, Caicedo, and Palmer for our player of the season as things stand. And what I liked with him, it's like all our attacking players, the Palmers, the Sanchos, the Netos, just weren't really shooting on goal.
Mm.
And if you don't shoot on goal, you're not going to score goals,
Yeah.
even if it's from distance. We saw against Copenhagen when Reece James had a shot on goal straight after half time. It went in. So
Yeah.
sometimes what you could do is just shoot on goal and test the keeper. And yeah, I was pleased for Cucurella. It was a brilliant strike. And it gave me massive throwbacks to Marcus Alonso during his left wing back days. Because I think Alonso on that left kind of flank would always kind of have a shot from range from a similar position. I think it was an almost identical goal he scored against, I think it was Newcastle in the league
Yeah.
in the Lampard season, where he just smashes it in with his left foot and it goes bottom right corner. So brilliant goal from him, and it's good to see finally some players shooting, whether that be midfielders, left backs, centre backs, and I think that's what I really want to see more going into these next couple of games now. Just players shooting more, taking more risks from distance. I think Palmer had a few shots on goal, but they were all off target.
Yeah.
Palmer's, I think we'll talk about him. I'm in two minds because I want to ask you your opinion on this. Sarri, after the game, said he had a really high fever for the last 48 hours, but told the manager that he wanted to play to help the team secure Champions League. And I'm in kind of two minds where I'm thinking, if you're not fully fit, you're not feeling yourself. Surely, on the contrary, you're not doing the team any favors if you're on the
Mm,
pitch, if you're not 100%. Um, but at the same time, I do like that energy where he still wants to be on the pitch to give it his all and help the team. But on the other hand, I'm also like, if you can't really give 100%, then maybe sit on the bench, maybe play
yeah.
20 minutes max, or even rest yourself and be fit for the Copenhagen game. But what are your thoughts on kind of Palmer's fitness, and if he's just recovered from a cold, should he be in the match day squad?
I don't. I mean, I get it from Cole Palmer's perspective. I think he just wants to play football. I think he's one of those people or those players that wouldn't want to miss a game. You could see how much it sort of disheartened him getting subbed off. But we have to look at the previous performances that he's played under, even without the illness, or maybe the illness was there, we just didn't know about it. But he hasn't been playing as well as we know that he can do. And, one of the things we've always advocated for is if someone isn't playing well, there are other options on the bench. We got to see Tariq George come on for him on Sunday, but I wouldn't have started him. If he's not fully fit, then clearly, you're only going to get, um, a 60-70% Cole Palmer. Personally, for me, I would have played someone else in that position. We do have um, Tariq George, who I think is, we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, even last week. I still think he has, a lot of growth to do in the team, but he's someone that you could use in the squad. And I think against Leicester, Copenhagen coming up this week as well, you think maybe you rest Cole Palmer. I'm not. I wouldn't have started him. He felt like he was snatching at his chances. I don't know what you felt in terms of just
Mm,
the opportunities that he was getting. I think I said it in the match review that I did earlier this week, but it was almost like he was shooting when the shot wasn't on, or
yeah,
there was a key pass on, and he wouldn't do that. He was almost like he needs that goal. Um, sum up his day with the penalty miss. I mean, it was, you bank on him to score. 10 in 10, I think so far up until the miss, but
12 and 12. It
12 and
was
12, even worse. Just that summed
unlucky.
up his day for me,
Unlucky,
though.
yeah, unlucky number 13 was the one he had
Yeah,
to miss.
yeah.
It did sum up his day. I think credit to Hamilton. It was a good save as well. But it was always going to happen. He was always going to
Mm,
miss one. When you look at Lampard and all of these top legends that we've had at the club, they've missed penalties.
yeah,
I think even Balotelli and Yaya Toure have eventually missed ones, and they were brilliant penalty takers. Um, but yeah, I think I did like his reaction. As soon as the ball went out for a corner, he just grabbed it and ran straight to the corner to take that corner quickly, almost like he wanted to kind of jump straight back into it and forget
mm,
about the penalty miss. Um, but yeah, I also think the keeper did get in his head a little, kind of delaying
yeah.
the spot kick, not being on his line, and I don't know why the referee didn't book him. You spoke about two mugs you've had so far. I think there was a third mug on the pitch in the referee that day. Yeah, I think there was a few controversial calls that the ref made, both for Leicester and for Chelsea.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think it was disappointing that he missed, and he obviously will kind of shatter his confidence. And kind of going back to what you said about kind of him not taking shots when they weren't really there, it almost felt against Leicester he was trying too hard
yeah.
in a way,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and it
100%.
wasn't. Yeah, and it wasn't that same Cole Palmer we saw last season, the beginning of this season, where he made things look effortless in a way. And I don't know if that's because he doesn't have Nicholas Jackson around them, who usually would bounce off quite well. He doesn't have the usual maybe Madueke and other players. And I also think fatigue plays a big part as well. Like I keep saying, he's almost playing every single minute of every single game. He was ill for the last 2 hours, and maybe he caught something on the way back from Copenhagen. I wouldn't be surprised. There's so many bugs now going around in transit and whilst traveling. But yeah, I've kind of I kind of agree with what you said. If you're not fit, just kind of like tell the manager I'm not feeling 100%. I think it'll be beneficial to the team actually if I take a step back and let them play, and maybe I'm back in the team for Thursday against Copenhagen. And I think all the fans were kind of like relatively happy when he came off, because it goes to show that Maresca, maybe when a player's underperforming, take him off and bring on someone else, give them
Mhm.
a chance. But I think it was more linked to the fact that he was just very ill, and it was just maybe agreed that he'd play 70 minutes, 75 minutes max.
Yeah, and I mean, he has played a lot of football since he signed for us. My worry is that we know that Reece James wasn't well, we thought it was an injury. He had the same sort of illness, high temperature,
Sure.
whatever it was. Why not just use the same
Yeah.
understanding for Cole Palmer then? Because if you clearly got one player in your team who is essentially still very vital, you spoke about him before the Leicester game again after Copenhagen, how he wants Reece James to be in midfield. We want to expect to see him there a bit more, and he emphasised that a lot after the Copenhagen game. We then get to Sunday, we see that Reece James isn't in the squad; he's ill. Why not just use the same thought process, especially when you've got
Mm.
Copenhagen, tomorrow coming up? Why not just use that same idea then? One's ill, the other one's got to be ill, and we have got options on that bench. Like I keep saying, that there is Tariq George there. There are players that could come in and fill in. Um, I felt like maybe a bit more of a hindrance than positive to take from Cole Palmer's performance on Sunday. How does he get out of this rut though? Is it just a case of potential goal, a really good performance? Does he just need one or two things to start clicking again for him to become the Cole Palmer that we got to see last season?
I think potentially this. I know Copan, like you said, he wants to be playing every game and he wants to be scoring and he wants to be starting games. But I think this international break coming up next week could be at a good time,
Yeah,
potentially just to kind of give him a rest. He'll probably be picked for England, which means more travelling and more football and more training. But in terms of actually kind of maybe be taken out the limelight slightly of the
mm,
kind of Premier League scene, I think it could be a good opportunity for him just to have a bit of a rest there. But I also kind of feel like he's that type of player that once he scores one, the goals will just kind of flow after
yeah,
that. We
yeah,
saw that almost like start of the season, that those 4 goals against Brighton, it was almost relentless back to back. And like it almost felt like every time he scored, it gave him the confidence to shoot more and score more and get those goals, those shots on target. And that's why I kind of really wanted him to score that penalty, because sure, it's just a penalty, a shot from the penalty spot, but it's a
it helps
goal. It
confidence,
gives
doesn't
you,
it? It
it
boosts your
helps your
confidence back up.
confidence.
Yeah,
It boosts your confidence, and it kind of you saw like Darwin Nunez last night when he missed his penalty. It almost felt like he got things completely shattered his confidence, and
yeah,
it probably will be something he takes into the next few games. But yeah, I feel like once he scores and gets back on the score sheet, hopefully that's against Arsenal on this weekend, or
yeah,
even against Copenhagen tomorrow. Then the goals will start coming again after that, because I think if my memory serves right, he hasn't scored since the 2-2 draw with Bournemouth, because there's own goals against West Ham
yeah.
and
They won't
Brighton.
count. Well, they do their own goals,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah. I mean, look, I think I've said on here before. I think the expectation for Cole Palmer is always going to be very high because of the
yeah,
season that he had last
yeah.
season, and I think we have to remember this is theoretically his second full season, not just at Chelsea, but I would even say while his time at Manchester City, he wasn't a regular every week at Man City at the time. So yes, he might have played one or two games, but this is like his real, serious season, and he is going to have a dip in form. He hasn't. I mean, if you look at his numbers, they're still relatively good for a player of Cole Palmer's ability and his age that he is. So I don't think it's a case of panic stations and you know worry too much. I think he's just played a lot of minutes. I mean, I said a couple of maybe just before Christmas, I felt like he was carrying up some sort of injury as well. So things have probably happened behind the scenes at Cobham that we're just not aware of. I don't mean between manager and player. I just mean you know maybe things just aren't clicking for him on the training ground, and that's then moving over to the matches as well. But I'm not concerned at all. I think and hope he does start, which we'll get onto later on about Copenhagen. I hope he starts in that game because I think that's probably a really good game to come bounce back from the penalty miss and try and get a goal midweek as well. But let's move on. Let's move on because we do have. I kind of wasn't sure about how this would work with Jadon Sancho, who
Mm.
uh, did he play well? I thought he played okay against Leicester on Sunday. I'll give him his credit. I thought he played okay, but I've been reading into it slightly and trying to understand it. And we're talking about potential returning of Jadon Sancho, not signing on a permanent, although we did have that sort of obligation, I believe, in there to sign him if we finished 14th and above in the league. I think it was around uh, 40 million euros, I think, for his services. But apparently there is options for us to not sign him. What side of the fence do you currently sit on with the sort of Jadon Sancho saga and potentially seeing him return back to Old Trafford? Oh, I don't know if I've lost you. If you're still there, I think we've lost Theo.
Agree that we wind back to I think August,
Oh,
September when we. Right?
oh, I can hear you. I think,
Can you hear me? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the connection just dropped a little bit.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah, I think it might be a bit dodgy, but I was just saying that in regards to Jadon Sancho, I remember when if you rewind back to August, September, when we'd agreed this loan deal with Manchester United, I think both yourself and myself were in agreement that we were the real winners out of
Mm,
this because we were realistically not going to finish below 14th. And we were getting what I thought was a decent player with really
mm,
good kind of potential for 20 to 25 million, which in today's market is an absolute steal. Um, and now I feel like he started off really well in that kind of September, October period. And since then, it's kind of faded a bit. I think it's just the 2 goals for Chelsea so far during his time at the club. And I think it's also quite unprofessional from us because I think it's Chris Wheeler on Twitter was mentioning that players often agree terms with their new club before joining on loan with
yeah.
a view to a permanent move, where Sancho had not done this with Chelsea. If the situation remains unresolved, then Chelsea will have to sign him and sell him or send him back to United and face a financial penalty. So it just seems quite unprofessional on our behalf that we didn't agree any kind of contract or
It's not
terms
surprising
or
though, is it?
no, it's just very messy and almost like just doing these things and hoping it works out.
I think there's a bit of a drop in the connection today. I'm not
And then
sure
they'll
if it's
sort out what happens later on. Um,
sorry, I think I'm cutting over you, but yeah, there's a bit of a break in the connection.
Let me know if you can hear me okay now.
I can now. I can hear you now.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be doing the majority of the talking after this. But yeah, I think my connection's clearly unstable. But yeah, I still feel like the Jadon Sancho we've been seeing at Chelsea has been a lot more promising than the one we've seen at United. And it also seems like he's probably enjoying his football a bit
Mm,
more as well. Um, I still think 20 million for him is probably a good deal, but it's whether he stays beyond the season after and or kind of goes down that maybe Dele Alli route and maybe ends up at like a Crystal Palace or an Everton and never really kind of fulfill the potential of being at a top 6 Premier League club. And
mm,
that's the side that worries me a bit. But I think we will resolve it. And I think Jadon Sancho will be at Chelsea next season.
yeah. I don't think I think this story's kind of come out of not come out of nowhere, but I think because I don't know if you've watched the Jim Ratcliffe interview,
Mm,
and he mentions on there that United still owe Dortmund money for Jadon Sancho. I think it might be in the region of 20 something million that I think they still owe Borussia Dortmund for him. So I think for all parties, I think what will happen is Sancho will stay at Chelsea. I think he'll have to potentially. I mean, I don't know if he hasn't agreed. The reason I don't think he's agreed sort of terms is because he's on 300 grand a week, which doesn't fit into the model currently at Chelsea at all. So
mm,
if he stays at Chelsea, he's going to have to take a dramatic wage cut
mm,
to stay at the club. The other option is that he does go back to, I suppose, in a way, does Chelsea cut their losses, take the penalty, take the hit of returning him and not signing him? Is that the cheaper option as opposed to trying to sign someone that isn't wanting to? Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to sign for 150 grand. I don't think it's going to halve his wages to stay at Chelsea. We aren't
mm.
going to want to pay him over 150 grand or even 200 grand a week. So there has to be some meeting at the middle to either sign him or do you loan him out somewhere and the loaning club, if that's the right term, pays a proportion of his 300 grand wages? I don't know. I agree with you. It's a messy situation to be in.
Mm.
One thing I will say is he does fit into. I'm just thinking how Ruben Amorim's trying to get United to set up. I think he would fit into the system that Ruben Amorim wants to play United. So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't know. United are in just as much mess financially as we are. Um, so I wouldn't rule out potential return to Man United in some capacity, whether he's a Chelsea player, loans to United, or I don't know. But I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think if he does want to stay at Chelsea, he's going to have to take a massive wage cut. And we have to remember when he was loaned out to Chelsea, it was Eric Ten Hagen who
Yeah.
was the manager. So it could be almost like a fresh start for him if he was to go back to United, play under a new manager. But yeah, I feel like it is a messy situation we've got with him and United have with him. And also we've got a similar messy situation of our own with Raheem Sterling, who's on
Oh,
about 300,000 K a week. And I don't know, I can't really see Arsenal signing him when you've got Kieran Tierney coming off the bench ahead of Raheem Sterling
yeah,
to play in a
exactly.
more kind of attacking position. So I think if he's going to want the similar wages that he's got at Chelsea, he's going to have to look to move to maybe Saudi or
Mm,
outside the continent. But I really doubt there's going to be any kind of club in Italy and Germany that will play anywhere near the kind of money that we've been offering him.
mm. It's interesting as well. You mentioned Raheem Sterling because I was reading a separate article that apparently, he's still not disappointed that he moved to Arsenal, albeit, he hasn't really played much football there. Things were apparently that bad that, some of the sort of FA governing bodies were called in to try and resolve things at Chelsea. It got to the point where he wasn't allowed, as we know, into the first team facilities, the dressing room, the canteen, the dressing, like all of those things that you would expect Raheem Sterling to have available to him on a day by day basis. They were taken away from him. So it just sums up the ownership, doesn't it? Really, you've got a player that's on too much money. No one wants to sign him. We're basically telling you not to turn up for work, or if you do turn up, go and use the small showers down the other end, not the big showers. So what do you reckon is going to happen with Sterling? Because clearly Mikel Arteta doesn't really fancy him. He's still a Chelsea player. I can't remember how long he's got left on his contract. I feel like he's got at least another three, maybe he's got to have at least 3 years left on that deal. I'm sure it's like a 7 year deal. What happens with Sterling? Where does he go?
I think he's done himself. I mean, he's done himself no favors in terms of his career going to Arsenal because he hasn't really been able to get on the pitch, get minutes, show the footballing world what he's worth.
Hmm,
I think there's two options. It's he goes to Saudi and there's a Saudi club that maybe matches his salary, or he takes a big pay cut and maybe goes to Italy to an Inter Milan, to a
yeah,
Juventus, potentially tries to kind of get out the Premier League limelight and plays football out there and kind of rejuvenate his career. Or similarly, he takes a big pay cut and maybe moves to a slightly not traditional top six club like a Everton, a Crystal Palace, potentially a Wolverhampton Wanderers, something like that. But I think he's still that player that maybe wants to get back into the England fold, and his ego will kind of not allow him to go to one of those clubs. We'll
I
see.
don't
But
think I don't think he wants to. I think I could
no,
see Raheem Sterling sitting at Chelsea and seeing out his contract.
that'd
I
be
really
so
do.
just like I genuinely feel like if he was to do that, it would be just purely because he wants to think about the money.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
but then he was
300
close.
grand
He
a
was
week.
Yeah, he was close to doing that on deadline day until Arsenal
Yeah,
came.
I can see him doing
So
it
yeah,
because he's in London. He's comfortable in London. He's how old is he now? He's got to be 30 something, I'd say.
yeah, early 30s probably,
Early
or
30s.
just
So he's done
yeah.
it all. He's played at the top level. He's played at international tournaments. He's done enough. He doesn't really the next step, like you say, is probably out of England or Saudi. He's not. I don't think he's going to take a wage cut. I don't think his pride would let him do that bit. I don't think he's willing to give up the 300 and odd grand a week to go move and play, Fiorentina or Juventus or Como. I can't see him. I just can't see him. His ego letting him do that. You saw his ego when he signed for Arsenal. He said something like, "The best of me is yet to come," or "You're going to see the
Mm,
best of me," and all those kind of quotes that he was saying. We haven't seen any of that, so you can tell that he's got a chip on his shoulder, especially at Chelsea. The way he's been treated, and I think the stubbornness side of him would probably say, "Actually, I'm contracted at this club. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to milk this cash cow for as much as I can."
mm.
He's got all his trophies, he's got all his medals. He doesn't really need to do anything else, I don't think. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. It's a lot of money to be paying out to someone who's not kicking a football for the club.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just feel like the wages he was on, the kind of age he is, doesn't really fit this kind of new
Mm,
profile of player that this ownership wants to go for, which is young and on under 100K a week, and
yeah.
he's clearly not any of those. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a dilemma this summer, not dilemma, but kind of going to be almost like an internal fight with how we get rid of him. Essentially, I think it's going to be another discussion of Ben Chilwell with Trevor Chalobah as well.
Possible mutual agreement.
Potential mutual agreement similar to what we did with Ross Barkley to terminate the contracts as well. I just feel like it's be such a sour end to end someone's time at Chelsea to have their contract terminated. Not so much Raheem Sterling, but more Ben Chilwell, was there during the Champions League 2021 win. Trevor Chalobah is an academy graduate. I think Trevor Chalobah will have teams calling for him and teams interested in his signature.
I can see him back at
But I
Palace.
think, yeah, I can see him going back to Palace or even another Premier League team. But I think it's more Ben Chilwell and Sterling, given the money they're on, the kind of age they are. Well, I think it's going to be really difficult to find potential suitors to sign them, especially in the country.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to some more positive news this
Yeah.
week. Chelsea turning 120 years old, 1905, the 10th of March. I did a small video on it earlier on this week, on the actual day of the anniversary. So if you haven't done so, please go and check that out as well. But 120 years, so much has happened. I tried in the video not to focus on the lows, because there have been some lows at Chelsea. The key one that was standing out to me on the day was the John Terry penalty miss Champions League final. I remember that day so much. Obviously, sanctions and transfer embargoes, etc. But what does it mean to you as a Chelsea fan? 120 years. I know you haven't supported them for that long, but you know you've grown up in some of the best eras, and I suppose at this point now for you, this period is almost like the first real, I'm not going to say a dark day at Chelsea, but it's not the nice days under when Roman was there,
No.
2003. But what does it mean for you supporting Chelsea and the 120 years coming up? Well, the 120 years is now here at Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean it's huge for me. Like Chelsea is, it sounds a bit cliche, but it's almost like a religion to me. And Stamford Bridge is my
Yeah,
church in a way because
yeah,
it's just I was born in the Chelsea Westminster Hospital, which is just around the corner from Stamford Bridge. So even had Chelsea not had that Abramovich money and not been as successful, I'd probably still pick Chelsea as my team because it
yeah,
was my local club. I live a stone's throw away from the stadium. I remember when I was young, before I was taken to matches, I'd be in my garden and I could hear the crowds from Stamford Bridge from my garden. So I know when it'd be a goal for the away team or the home end simply from the cheering.
yeah,
And I would just always beg my father to take me to the ground. So it was almost like embedded in me, part of my ritual, my routine when I was young. And like you said, I was very fortunate to grow up during such successful eras. I think when I first really properly got into football, I got my first Chelsea kit was I think the 2003, 2004 shirt,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
putting the Umbro Fly Emirates shirt. And then, these players, like I remember that team with Adrian Mutu, Damien Duff, Good Johnson, Lampard, Terry, Drogba. That was the
Robin.
first proper team I watched. Robin,
Yeah,
Kesman, Thiago, Carvalho. And then, yeah, I just kind of always kind of enjoyed it. And then I feel like I properly first started going to matches more regularly when I was maybe more in my teenage years. And that's when it really became part of my weekend ritual, going to Stamford Bridge.
yeah,
There was obviously some low moments, like when Mourinho came back to Chelsea. I think we finished 10th or 11th, and Gus Hiddink took control just after Christmas. But it always felt like we were going to bounce back. We had the team full of leaders and kind of experienced players like Hazard, Diego Costa, Fabregas, John Terry was still there, and then
yeah,
the proof was in the pudding. We won the Premier League the season after under Conte, so it didn't really feel like it was more of a blip of a season rather than actual kind of a something that was ongoing. But like you said, I think this new period now, the last 2 or 3 years, I've really felt like a different feel around the club, the atmosphere at the stadium, how I feel when we lose. It's just not the
yeah,
same kind of impact on my mood and my behavior. But I want to talk about the positives. It was just more because that's what we do when we celebrate birthdays. 120 years, it's huge. It's like really historic. I think Olympiacos in Greece also celebrated their birthday. I think it was their 100th anniversary. I think yesterday, and it just goes to show how historic the club is. A lot of people say the club's got no history, but it's got plenty of history. I mean, even like I was the Osgood statue outside Stamford Bridge. It just brings back a lot of kind of old memories of fans that probably supported Chelsea during that era. And the fact Kevin Bates, I think, bought the club, was it for £1, I think, and then kind of turned it into what it is now. So yeah, I'm just really, really proud to be a Chelsea supporter. Some of my favourite and most fondest memories during my life kind of involve Chelsea, whether that be meeting people, travelling, watching the club, the emotions, the passion I felt, especially during that 2012 kind of season when I went to every single home game at Stamford Bridge, the Napoli game, the Benfica game, the Barcelona game. So yeah, it's an amazing kind of milestone, and also just now that we've kind of got social media to be able to share my love and my passion for Chelsea to people around the world, it's something I really enjoy as well, and just to give them a glimpse of what it feels like to go to Stamford Bridge when they live somewhere maybe they're not as fortunate enough to be able to go regularly to football matches.
Yeah.
That's hopefully what I want to give as well to the Chelsea community online.
Yeah, which is definitely growing, especially through
Mm.
our social accounts and on this channel here as well. It's definitely growing. There's so many positives to take from
Yeah.
Chelsea. I think when you look back at, and I said this on the video I done the other day, was, you know, we forget when you go down that trip down memory lane, you realize how much you grew up and you got to watch and witness some of the best times, like you said, under Roman Abramovich. Even before then, you know, the Cup Winners' Cup '98 as well. Like those moments, you just I think because football's changed now, and like you say, it's really accessible. It's just there. Those matches will always stick in my
Yeah.
mind first before, I don't know, the West Brom game where we, you know, under Conte, that's a brilliant
Mm-hmm.
night. But I'm thinking back to that Cup Winners' Cup '98, how difficult it was for us to win it. I think at that point, you know, we were the first team. I think I said this the other day, we were the first club to win three major. This is obviously pre '99, three UEFA competitions in the Cup Winners' Cup, the Europa League, and the Cup Winners' Cup, and the Champions League. At that point, you know, we can obviously go on a step further if we win the Conference League and do that. But it was just, I think you just look at the history of the club. I went through it the other day. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, but we beat a team 13-0 in a final. You know, we beat Leeds United in the '70s in the FA Cup replay final. You know, when they had replays in the final. It's just, you know, you go down this, and there's bits in the history that I wasn't even aware of. You know, just going back to the founding years. You know, early on. Um, so I think it's something to be proud of. You know, I think we you know, we've had this sort of stigma under the club. I think when we were in the '90s, even in the '80s as well, you know, it was a whole different, completely different fan base at the club. And over the years, you've slowly got to see that change, a bit more multicultural fan base, different
Yeah.
nationalities supporting the club now. It's not just you know, the stigma that was once around the club has almost been removed a little bit. So that's
Mm-hmm.
good to see as well. I mentioned the women's team, how much the women's
Yeah.
teams come on, the
Yeah.
youth academy that we've got at the club, or we've had at the club as well, how well that's done over the last 20 years or so. Um, it's just good to see. And like I said in the video the other day, you know, things aren't as rosy as they can be now at the club. You know, things aren't, you know, we're going through a bit of turmoil with the owners, and you know, the results haven't been the best this season. But if all I can ask all Chelsea fans to do is go and take a trip down memory lane before tomorrow's game, and you'll just realize how much things we've done. You know, the Champions League wins, the UEFA Cup wins, just so many games. The history's there. It really is.
Yeah, even like when you say to go take a trip down memory lane, if you're going to the Copenhagen game tomorrow, just walk down the Legends Wall where you see
War.
all the photos of the Chelsea legends. It just brings me so much happiness, like seeing photos of, I don't know, Ashley Cole, Ivanovic, John Terry, Vialli, Ray Wilkins. These players, it just makes me so happy that, you know, it's for sure we've got an amazing team now of Cole Palmer and these recent legends, but
Oh,
then
they've
there
not
was
got
so
a
much
patch on
more.
them.
Yeah, exactly. There's
No,
like
no, that
almost, and
sounds
that's
bad,
why,
but they haven't.
yeah, and I'm just so happy I got to live through that era where we had, I think it was the goalkeeper of the most clean sheets in the Premier League, the defender with the most goals in the Premier League,
Yeah,
the the midfielder with the most goals in the Premier League, and I think it was at the time before Mohamed Salah, the African striker with the most goals in the
yeah,
Premier League.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's just yeah, it's special. And even when I see these statistics of the like, I think it was only 15 goals we conceded
yeah.
with
2025, 2016, 2000, is it 25, 2016 season?
2004, 2005,
2000,
I think.
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like that makes it special. It makes it special. If even
That
when I
will
see all
never
these
happen
throwbacks,
again.
it will
No,
never happen again.
no,
100% not. I also think because the quality of other teams has gotten better since then.
it just will
Also,
never
but
happen.
yeah, and you'll see you'll never find a keeper as good as Petr Cech and a centre
Yeah,
back partnership as good as John Terry and Ricky Carvalho, will you?
yeah. I've got three firsts, Chelsea firsts that we
Okay.
did. So the first one here, it says we introduced numbered shirts in a competitive match alongside Arsenal. That was August 25th, 1928. Um, Second one is that we fielded the first all foreign starting 11 in the Premier League against Southampton. I was on Boxing Day, 1999. And as I said before, we became the first English club to win all three pre 1999 major UEFA competitions twice. Um, Champions League, Europa League, Cup Winners' Cup. So
History. Yeah.
history's there. History's there. I know they like to say, other fans say we've got no history, but you know, I was going to say Google's there. We don't use Google anymore. It's ChatGPT and
Yes.
all the other AIs, or then but everything's out there. We have got a lot of history. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. We could do a whole episode on
We
just
could,
the
yeah.
history timeline.
I was gonna just wrap up this segment with asking you. I think we've already done this in the past, but your favorite Chelsea memory.
Oh man, there's too many. If I was
And then,
just put on the spot and someone had a virtual gun to my head, I'd probably say, um, for me, it's got to be the Didier Drogba penalty, Munich. I don't think,
yeah,
I don't think anything will be. I remember exactly where I was, what I was
mm.
doing, what I was drinking, what I was wearing. Everything about that moment will always stay with me, just because we were so much, and I said it in the video the other day, we were the underdogs in that game. And if you think back to the journey that we had to get to that final, it wasn't just a straightforward, beating every team. We had to fight from pretty much the quarterfinals to get to that final and win it in the way that we did. So for me, it's that goal. What about you?
Yeah, I feel from an emotional perspective, it definitely has to be the Drogba goal. I think the Champions League 2021 win comes close, but just
Yeah,
from a more personal perspective, I think getting my first Chelsea kit. I literally
yeah, yeah,
remember, I remember very vividly the day I was probably only about 5 or 6, but my mum taking me to the old mega store at the time.
yeah,
With my brother, we both picked out the shirts we wanted. He picked out the Chelsea away kit. I picked out the Chelsea goalkeeper kit at the time,
yeah,
the grey one with almost like a zebra pattern on the
yeah,
back.
yeah,
On the back, and yeah, I just remember really, really vividly that day. She took us after school. I wish I'd kept that kit. I think I gave it away now, annoyingly.
yeah.
But
Got
yeah,
to keep it and frame it.
yeah, I wish I could get it back somehow. But yeah, that was a really special day. So yeah, I'll probably go with my first game, my first Chelsea kit.
Yeah. And speaking of Didier Drogba, I think it was his birthday yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
Decorated. He's probably one of the most decorated players we've had at the football club. Um, let's keep the theme going. So your most memorable or most favorite Didier Drogba goal to celebrate his birthday, what would you have to pick out of? I was going to say a top three, but let's just do top one, just the best goal.
Let's exclude the Champions League final one because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's
No, I wouldn't pick that anyway,
yeah,
but
yeah. I think there was one against Everton where he just gets
you've
the
got
ball. Yeah, I'll
the
let you
same
have that
one.
one. I'll
Yeah,
let you
yeah.
have that one then.
But it
I'll
was a
go with
good
the one
goal. It
against.
was an
It was a
amazing
really
goal. The swerve
yeah,
on the ball.
and he did a similar one at Wembley against Tottenham, I think, in the semi-finals of the FA
Yes,
Cup,
it
where
did.
he chests it and just smacks it on the volley against Cudicini, who was in goal
Yeah.
for Tottenham at the time. But there's another one, I don't know why, but it just always pops up on Instagram or on Reels and Twitter. I think it's against Hull City on the opening day of the season. I think Lampard scores the first goal, or Drogba scores the first goal, and Drogba then is on almost the corner line and somehow manages to chip the keeper from the corner line against Hull City, I think in 2009. And it's like the angles are almost impossible, and it defies the laws of kind of
Just
how it
watching it now.
should have gone in. Yeah, and I remember that game we got really important 3 points under Carlo Ancelotti, and it just set the precedent afterwards for what was going to be a season where we were just going to score for fun, beat Villa, beat Sunderland, beat Stoke 7-0 each time, and yeah, I just remember really enjoying that game and really enjoying that goal.
Oh, it's a lovely goal. It is. I'm just
Yeah,
watching it now. It's a good goal. He should not be scoring from there. I wonder if he
yeah.
got booked. He takes his top off. I wonder if he got booked for it. I don't
I
know if
feel like that was before
that
they
rule
were
wasn't in
booking
yet, was it?
players. Yeah,
Did like a
I
good
think they
booking.
should bring that back. I did like seeing the players take their shirts off.
Yeah.
We should do an
So
episode on kind of rules that we would bring back or rules that we
yeah,
would get rid of in football.
yeah, yeah. Or introduce.
Introduce, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Drogba was one of those, wasn't he? You knew if he had the ball at his feet, the likelihood he's either going to score or he's going to create a good chance for someone else to score. So I think we should ring him up now and see if he could someone DM him and just say, do you fancy a kick around on Sunday against Arsenal? He might be up for it. Um,
He loved
yeah,
playing against Arsenal, didn't he?
exactly. You never know. Let's turn our attention to tomorrow's game, Copenhagen. Um, what's your thoughts going into it? How do you feel? You're apprehensive? Are you confident we can get the victory and progress through to the next round?
I mean, always this season watching Chelsea, it's a mix of confidence and nerves. I think especially after the tough first game they gave us,
Yeah,
and then being the underdogs going into this second game, they've got nothing to lose. They're just going to go out there, play their football, and almost give it their all to try to qualify to the quarterfinals. Whereas for us, there's a lot more pressure on us, being the favourites in the whole competition.
yeah,
A lot of Chelsea fans have already been booking their flights to Poland in May for the final. So there is a bit of kind of this almost egoistic or kind of a bit too confident or cocky kind of feel from the Chelsea fans, which probably is what the players feel as well. And I really hope Maresca almost tells them that this game's not granted. It's not a win. We didn't win the first leg 4-5-0.
yeah.
It's only 2-1. It's
They
still
gave
all
us a
to play
game.
for. And that they gave us a game, especially in that
Mm,
first half. And it's all to play for in the second leg, in my opinion. Especially given that we worked hard for that game, for those 3 points against Leicester. We've got a really other tough game on Sunday against Arsenal.
yeah,
We don't really have time to rest now. It's straight back into it tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. So I think it's going to be a really tough game. I think one of their players got injured, I think, when Chalobah accidentally,
yeah.
um, I think Chalobah might have accidentally injured him in the first leg. But yeah, I'm expecting a tough game. Also, I saw that tickets are still available, which makes me think some Chelsea fans are not that fussed, not taking it seriously. They rather just watch the game from home.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cold evening tomorrow as well, so maybe
I heard
they're
it's
thinking
snowing
about
down
that.
south. Is it
Yeah,
true?
yeah, I saw that on BBC Weather.
By
I think temperatures are
Cheltenham.
dropping. Yeah, we had 18 degrees over the weekend, and now it's dropping back to zero.
Yeah,
It's typical spring day in London, really.
yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a tough game, really tough. How are you feeling going into it?
I think this needs to separate the serious players from the not so serious players.
Yeah,
I think this is a game which we can't go into it with, which, and I agree with you. I think some of the players might go into it with the attitude that it's, Chelsea, Stamford Bridge, they're coming to our patch, our turf, but it's going to be a tough game. You got to see last night with, I know it's a totally different game, but PSG and Liverpool, teams aren't afraid to come to English teams anymore, and they will dominate. They can dominate possession. So I don't want us to fall into that false sense of security that you're at home. You've got a bit of a cushion to go into with the 2-1. It's not going to be easy at all. It is really will not be an easy game. And in the back of the minds of some of these players, as you said, Arsenal is probably the more, I don't want to say more important game, but it's definitely the one that will be on the players' minds a lot more than this game tomorrow night. So they have to take it and treat it like it's like they are playing Arsenal. They do.
mm,
And, I said in the previous fixture last week that, Copenhagen are dominating their domestic league. They're doing really, really well. We can't just expect them to turn up and sit back and allow us to play and dictate possession, dictate the game. They'll be up for it 100%. So I'm 60% confident at the moment.
mm,
It might change over the next
yeah.
24 hours or so.
And similar to what you said, you saw the Paris fans at Anfield last night. They were intimidating. They
Oh
put on
yeah,
a hostile
they
atmosphere
made it
from the
noisy.
away section. They made it noisy, especially during that penalty shootout. I'm not sure
Yeah,
you saw one had
the megaphone.
a megaphone. Yeah. um, I think the Danes in their section of the shed tomorrow will be will be quite similar. They'll be noisy,
Mm,
intimidating. So I say this every time, but us as Chelsea fans, we need to play our part to really rally the team
yeah,
to qualification.
yeah. It needs to be noisy. I can't remember if I made this up, but I feel like Maresca might have come out and said something about the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge and how it needs to get better,
Yeah,
or it needs to improve. Um, he's not wrong, but at the same time as well, I'm talking from a fan's perspective who hasn't and hasn't been to Stamford Bridge for a while. So, you're there a lot more than I am. You can probably answer that one. Does it need to improve? Does it need to get better? Is this now the turning point in our season where we kick on, we try and win this trophy in the conference league and get top four football? But the atmosphere is crucial for all of that to happen.
Absolutely, yeah, it's been really flat. I mean, I think we've spoken at length for what can be done to improve that, starting with
Yeah,
the ticketing and the pricing. I think as a Chelsea fan who goes to virtually every single game, I can't remember it being to a point where I left the stadium with a sore throat almost from cheering
mm,
so much since that United game, the 4-3 when Palmer scores at the very end. And it wouldn't have been that way had the team not kind of gotten the goals at the end. So
yeah,
yeah, it's been disappointing and it definitely needs improving as well.
yeah. I agree. I agree. If you're on YouTube, you'll see that I've got my favorite part of the podcast up and running. We are going to do our predicted lineups for tomorrow. So I've gone for Jurgensen and goal. I don't know if you'd agree with that, or whether you think potentially Sanchez will give himself more times in between the sticks to dive out again and try and give us a 1-0 deficit to chase in the second half.
Yeah, it's a weird one because Sanchez played the first leg, and usually in these games you'd want the same keeper to play both the first and the second leg. But then Sanchez played again in the league on against Leicester, which makes me think now Maresca's swapped things back around and has now Sanchez as the league keeper and Jurgensen as the cup keeper.
Yeah,
But given how important this game is and we can't afford not to qualify, I would have my keeper that I back more, that I have more confidence in watching, and that's Jurgensen again.
yeah, agreed, agreed. Um, Reece James obviously missed the game on Sunday. I would expect him to play this game, and I don't know if that's just me with false hope that he's going to be, well enough to play. But if it is just an illness, high temperature, viral sort of, illness, you would expect that to have passed by from now until last Sunday. So, who are we going for in terms of from? Let's do it from right to left today. I know it's a bit backwards, but let's start with our right back. Who are we going for?
I mean, like we mentioned on the previous episode, I think Reece James will be more deployed in the midfield
Yeah,
position. So I think Gusto won't be fully fit. He wasn't on the bench against Leicester. So slightly controversial, but I would go Chalobah right back.
okay.
I think. I think Fofana as well. I wouldn't risk playing him back to back in that right back position
I can't remember if he's
two
part of the
consecutive
squad.
games.
I don't feel like he's part of the squad.
He's yes, I think you're right. He might not be part of the squad. On top of
Yeah,
that, so that's my. I would go Chalobah.
yeah,
But obviously, if things don't really work out and we feel like we're lacking a bit of mobility going up the pitch, maybe I would drop Reece James back into that position and maybe
yeah.
bring on a midfielder to replace him. But I'll go Chalobah. Centre backs, I would go with Badiashile and
Ooh,
Colwill.
ooh.
I know slightly a lot of. Badiashile did play that first game against Copenhagen
He did.
on
He
the
did.
bench
He
against
did well.
Leicester. And as much as I want to play our best team, I also really want to get a result against Arsenal.
Did you say Colwell?
Um,
Sorry.
so yeah, Colwell is the left centre back,
Yeah, I agree. The
and
Arsenal
then
game is important.
yeah, and then Cucurella is the left back. Just
Yeah,
too
we've got to see.
important not to play in any game at the moment. Too important not to play, and we don't have any other options
We
at left
don't.
back either.
We
Yeah.
don't. It's a good shout. The two in midfield.
If Reece James is fit, I would play him in midfield, perhaps,
Yeah,
and then
I
I
agree.
would rest Enzo Fernandez maybe, or if I do play him, it'll be more higher up
Yeah,
the pitch. So I would have Caicedo along Reece James.
I
I was
agree.
no, yeah, I was nervous watching Caicedo against Leicester every time he went
Yeah,
in for a
exactly.
challenge.
I was just about to say I agree, but I don't know don't know why, but I feel like Dewsbury Hall's going to get a run out tomorrow. Maybe he's going to play more advanced, or maybe on the left like he did on last Thursday's game. But uh, do you play Caicedo knowing the game on Sunday is very important? But we can't afford to lose this game, can we? So
Mm, yeah, it's a
s-
tricky
s-
one. Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
is James even fit for this one? Like,
exactly. I reckon question mark on James. If James is not fit, Dewsbury Hall will start alongside either Caicedo, Enzo, and I think what we'll probably see is what we saw last week was they both do 45 minutes, just to keep them fresh for Sunday. I think in terms of Caicedo and Enzo.
yeah, I agree with that.
So far, I think I'm agreeing so far. I think um, who's the three in attack uh, that we're going with? Gets a bit
I would
tricky
go
here,
with
actually.
yeah. Do you know what? I would rest Palmer for this one. I
Yeah,
would rest
100%,
Palmer. Two
100%.
reasons. I just feel like he's been not very effective, not his usual self. And if he was still recovering from some kind of bad flu or bug, then he shouldn't maybe just be given a bit of extra rest. And it does favors when you try to exercise and you're still not well. It almost sets you back even further.
Yeah.
So I would go with Nkunku as the 10
Yeah. Oh,
with Sancho and Tyreek George either side of him.
we going Sancho left, or because I think George. I feel like I like George on the left a little bit more. I don't know
Yeah, I
why,
think
but
when he came on against Southampton, I'm pretty sure he played on the right,
he
and
did.
even against
He did.
Leicester, yeah. So I think he was quite good on the right, but I think
Yes.
either or could potentially work.
And like you say, you got the options of switching.
Yeah,
You can swap over Sancho. I felt Sancho, because Sancho played more on the right against Leicester, didn't he? I think he was more on that right side with Pedro Neto
yeah.
as the 9, and I think was it Nkunku on the left a little bit. I think top of my head.
They were all, yeah, it was hard to kind of like keep track. Even Neto at times
Yeah,
was dropping to the wing or playing as a 10,
yeah,
and Cuckoo kind of like overlapping, and Palmer almost playing as a midfielder at times.
yeah. He was dropping a
Um,
bit deeper.
yeah, but having said that, I would have Neto as our number 9.
Yeah,
Absolute workhorse. I'm
he
not sure you saw
did.
that kind of passage of play against Leicester where he just chased the
No,
ball
I
relentlessly.
saw your social video image on Twitter that went viral. Um,
Yeah,
of him like knackered at the end of the game, flat out at full time. But no,
it was his birthday as well on Sunday.
yeah,
So
took a bit of a beating
he
on Sunday.
definitely took a beating, having he had a bit of a cut, and also he definitely earned his birthday cake that
Yeah,
night as well.
100%. Um, so just to summarize for the audio
Yep,
listeners more so we've gone for Jurgensen in goal, Trevor Chalobah right back with the two centre backs of Levi Colwell and Benoit Badiashile, Correa as our left back with Reece James Caicedo in the midfield too, Sancho on the left of the attack with Nkunku as the 10, Tariq George on the right side of that attack with Pedro Neto acting as our striker going forward. Gives us many options, I think, in the attacking areas. We do have Josh Ashiempong, who could potentially come in as a right back as well. Um, and Keenan Dewsbury Hall, as we mentioned, Enzo in that midfield, or even again Enzo higher up in the sort of 10 role. So there's
Lavia as
options.
well. Yeah,
Lavia,
Lavia's
yeah,
back in. He's back in the
Lavia,
team.
yeah, it's a good shout.
We could potentially see Lavia
Oh,
alongside
that's actually a
James with
good shout.
Caicedo dropping as the right back, which we saw earlier in the season.
Yeah,
But I would not risk Lavia starting from the off, given how long he's been injured.
he's
But
got to he's got to get minutes though.
I want to see him against Arsenal. He's such an important player for us.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
kind of when we've played well, it's always coincided with when he's been on the pitch.
yeah,
Um, so I would have Lavia at some point come on in this game, get him minutes, build up his match fitness, and have him potentially even start against Arsenal on
yeah,
Sunday.
yeah. I agree. I agree with that lineup. Actually, I do think looking at it a bit more now, we've got options off the bench. We also, because I did like Amagu when he came on last week. Now I'm not saying he should start the game at all, but it definitely gives you a little bit more options off the bench, and if we need to, we could always bring him on as well. I think he looks good. I'm not saying we've only seen a handful of minutes of him, but he looks very, very good, very technical on the ball. Looks like he can hold the ball up well, deliver that forward pass going to our attackers. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some minutes tomorrow. I'm not saying he should start, but definitely get some minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we shouldn't underestimate Copenhagen. Like I said, hopefully get a comfortable lead and then maybe rest a few players, like
Yeah.
we always say. But yeah, if we're winning like 2 or 3-0, maybe get Amagu on for the last 15 or 20 minutes. But
Mm.
yeah, it looks like quite a young and promising player who I think will benefit from that loan to Strasbourg
Yeah.
next season as well.
Yeah. Then we've also got the likes of Raksaki, who I think will be on the bench. Um, yeah, we have to win this game though. There's no ifs or buts. We have to win. Um, who do we get in the next round again? We spoke about this last week. It would be
Yes, Legia Warsaw, who I
that
think
was it.
came second. They came second in the entire league phase, and I think they were
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
I think they might have gone unbeaten. Like Chelsea had just lost one of their games, and they're trailing 3-2 to Molde,
That
Norwegian
was it.
team.
That was it.
Um, I saw someone on I think on Instagram or Twitter. They put like the hotels available in Molde. Should we play them? Thinking about already booking a trip, and there was only like 4 or 5 hotels.
Yeah, it's not a big
I think
place.
it's no, I think it's a very remote kind of Norwegian kind of city or town. It'll probably be bloody cold as well there.
Yeah, well,
Um,
makes no difference. It's cold here, so probably get used to it.
yeah, True, yeah, but yeah, Legia, Warsaw, Molde would be the next opponent. But I always
Yeah,
want to just focus on Copenhagen first and
yeah,
not
of course.
really
Yeah, we want to let's get
think
through tomorrow
think
night.
about that. Yeah,
Let's get through tomorrow night. Let's end with our predictions as always. We've been very close. I feel like you might have been very close on Sunday, actually.
I was really far off. I said
Oh,
three
did you
one
say
Chelsea
3-1?
actually.
One of us, or maybe I said it then. Maybe I said 2-1 or something, which was very far away from it as well, to be fair. But what we're going for tomorrow night, Copenhagen, Stamford Bridge, under the lights. Can we get the job done?
I think it's going to be a tough game, and I think they're going to score first, and then we're
Mm.
going to be almost chasing the game after. So I'm going to go with 1-1, which will be just enough for us to qualify, but it will be very, very tight and nervy, a really nervy watch.
I mean, I've been given a lot of rubbish to Liverpool fans over the last couple of hours or so. It would not surprise me if we end that game 1-0 and go out on penalties. It really wouldn't surprise me. But I'm going to be confident. I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea. I think we've got enough. I think we've got enough. I think the home advantage will help us. I'm not saying it's going to be the deciding factor, but it will help us. Um, and like I keep saying, we've got some good options off the bench now. Like you said, Lavia, Dewsbury Hall, Enzo, Raksaki, Achiampong, if we need to as well. Cole Palmer, if we have to bring him in. So there's options off the bench that we should be using, utilizing very well. So 2-1. Yeah, 2-1. Let's leave it at that.
And last little bit of trivia question: what was the score when we last played Copenhagen at Stamford Bridge?
Oh, I think it was 1-1, or maybe was it 1-1 or 3-1? It was one of the
It was
two. I'm sure.
it was 0-0 actually.
0-0.
0-0, but we
I
won the
thought we
first leg
scored.
2-0. 2-0 in Copenhagen with 2 goals from Anelka. And then the second leg was, I remember watching it, it was a very boring 0-0.
I can't remember. It's all the trip. Also, all the trips down memory lane. I've still got Ted Drake's name in my head from this week, reading all about like 1905 and everything. But no, it would be. I think it would be a more entertaining game. I think we're at that point where it's like I said, it's separating who's serious about this season and who's just here to, you know, enjoy the vibes, as Nani Madweki would probably say. So yeah, we have to win this game, and then we have to then focus our attention back to the Premier League. But one step at a time. Let's see how we can progress. Hopefully in the Conference League.
Absolutely, yeah. And Chelsea fans, if you're watching this live, tickets still available. Get to Stamford Bridge, be
Yeah,
vocal,
yeah.
support the team. Really important game and not one you want to miss out on.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure they'll be snapped up before now in the kickoff.
Yeah,
As long as they're not 12,000, like I did see for one of the games. Although that was behind the dugout. It was behind the dugout, to be fair. So, but yeah, enjoy the game. Theo, I'm sure you'll be there
cheers.
cheering everyone on. Don't forget to subscribe. I can't keep saying it. We're on the road now very quickly to 700 subscribers. So we've done well in the space of March so far. We've increased up by about 180 subscribers. So we appreciate everyone that is subscribing. Linktree link is in the description. Again, don't forget to hit that for our social accounts. Theo, until next time, thank you very much. We'll be back soon.